Hi, I am Sophie Flynn and I am a senior in the IB program at Broughton High School. I have the honor of sitting here today with the Hall of Fame honoree, Victoria Scott Miller. As the honoree in entrepreneurship, you give us great hope for the future as you foster skills of literacy and collaboration among our young people. Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated your focus?
I think what motivated my focus into becoming an entrepreneur, because originally that was never on my radar, was to fill a void that I felt needed to be filled. Children of color are historically underrepresented in literature, and having two sons, two black young sons that are looking to literature, looking to books, looking to us in order to become their fullest selves and to arrive in their power, it was important to create a space that would give that to a community of children that hadn't had that opportunity.
You've worked diligently to ensure opportunities are accessible to all. This must have been particularly challenging during the pandemic. I think that it would be helpful for our audience to hear more specifically about how you've dealt with COVID in and of itself.
I think for us, COVID actually was empowering. That time was empowering because people were thirsty for knowledge of the human experience. They were thirsty for the knowledge of Black life, and they wanted to understand. For us, it allowed us to be more innovative. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, the first thing we went to do is go visit our family in Memphis. And that's when we had our first virtual story time on the streets of Memphis. We went to Beale Street, we went to the National Civil Rights Museum, and we told stories. And that kind of was a catalyst for us beginning our online presence during COVID.
So we've heard about how the pandemic has influenced you, but what advice can you share with our audience and how we can support public education as we move forward?
I think you support public education by tapping into the mental health of their students, the mental health of the educators, ensuring that they have an outlet, that they feel supported, that they feel loved, that they feel empowered, not just by what we say, but what we do.
So, as a young child, would you have been able to see yourself where you are now?
As a young child, I think I had this vivid imagination. I remember being 4 years old and realizing that penguins could not fly. So I drew balloons on their wings with the hope that they would elevate in some capacity. So I never knew what to envision of my life as a child. I just knew that it would involve creativity. I knew that it would involve freedom, and that I would be limitless.
Do you have any go-to authors that you think that young children of color could look up to?
Absolutely. Derrick Barnes, he is the New York Times bestselling author of King of Kindergarten, Crown Ode to the Fresh Cut, and also upcoming Queen of Kindergarten, illustrator and author Vanessa Brantley Newton, Tamika Fryer Brown, Chandra Strickland. There are tons of authors of color that do deep, intentional work to ensure that our voices are brought to the surface and that children see a mirror of themselves, not a handheld mirror, but a full-length mirror so they can experience their entire body and learn to take ownership of that.
Can you tell me a book or a story that you still look to that has inspired you?
Why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears, I think, is so relevant for today because it really is the first introduction to me of social media. I think we have to understand the power of our words. I think we have to understand the power of our whispers even. And so I think that to me will always be a favorite.
Can you give us a summary of it?
Oh goodness. So there's this mosquito who is flying in everyone's ear, telling them a story, and they end up getting upset at one another in the process. And what ends up happening ultimately is that the mosquito turns out to be, a liar, and he ends up getting slapped, at the end. But I think the moral is check your sources, check your sources. Don't internalize what you hear, and make sure that you do investigative work towards getting to the source of a story before you internalize it. Yeah.
Was there a key event when you were younger that sparked your interest and said there needs to be a change in the public school system and accentuate people of color and lives of?
Yeah, so I would say that we grew up, my mother was a single parent, but my father was a historical photographer. He has covered the Million Man March. My mother was an environmentalist. And what we offer in the bookstore was actually our library growing up. So it wasn't foreign to me to not see myself. Actually, it was not seeing myself was a surprise because that was my expectation. But I think when I was little, I knew that I was different, but I also knew that there was a space for my differences. There was a space for my weirdness. There was a space for my curiosity. And I did not know that it would manifest into a bookstore or what all of it has become now. But I knew that I was going to eventually be a space maker. I knew that I would be creating space for children that looked like me, for children that felt like me. This bookstore is an offering and a love letter to my younger self. And luckily, it's been able to benefit so many people in the process.
Was there a specific event that happened that to you maybe or to a friend that called action to this needs to be a change?
So I'm approaching 36, and life is vastly different now than it was then. And I don't think that there was ever, for me, a catalyst that said, there needs to be change. What I do remember, however, are the teachers in my life that gave me permission to be brilliant. And that is the type of work that I wanted to be in. I wanted to make room for the brilliance of children that look like me, the brilliance of children that look like our children, so that they understand that that we're normalizing their stories, that we're normalizing their narratives, and that they're not based in trauma, that they're not based in struggle, but they can be based in hope. They can be based in art, in STEM, and most importantly, based in love.
Do you have a certain person that you look to that continues to inspire you today?
I have 3 people, actually, and I would have to say it would be my family, my nucleus, my husband, Dwayne, and our 2 children, Langston and Emerson. And I don't just say that to be cheesy, but I say that because being an entrepreneur is not an easy job. And it is takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of commitment, I think, to show up even when the things that we expect don't come, when the money isn't coming in or the opportunities aren't coming in, but we have a natural drive to show up. They have fortified me to make me believe that what I'm doing is worthy, and they have continued to push me every day and to celebrate me on this path. And so I would say that they are my biggest inspiration and the reason why I'm sitting across from you today.